Hi, this is Calculus 2, and I'm going to just sort of do a quick talk through of some of the policies, how we'll be running the class, how things are going to work, sort of what's going to be expected of you, hopefully what's expected of me, and how we're going to put this together so that by Christmas you guys can have some success and be able to move on either to Calculus 3 or whatever course you want to go into, maybe at North Harris or maybe even at university. So what I'm going to do is talk through what I'm calling the syllabus. If you go onto my webpage, it says for syllabus, click here. You can get either an electronic, or if you print it, you can have a hard copy of the policies and how we're going to go through it. I want to just hit the highlights. I don't want this to take too long because you can read things as well as I, but there are a few things I do want to talk through. I'm going to go through this very similar to as if it were in person. Rather than just say, go ahead and read this, I think it actually does help. I think it's worth a time investment for you to get to know what I'm expecting and me to get to know a little bit more about what you would like. Ideally, I'd like to be able to be in an in-person interaction with you guys, but that's not the way it's going to work. So let's talk about that. If you want to, you can pause the video now and call up that sheet, that syllabus sheet. Or again, if you want to, you can go ahead and print a copy. So if you want to do that now, you can go ahead and pause and get that called up so you can follow along if you like to. So my name is Egley, E. Egley. Some of you have had me in class before. In fact, some of you, the way the class is going to work is going to be very similar to how the second half of the spring semester went this past spring 20. There are a few little modifications, I hope, but it's going to be very similar to that. But some of you have not had me in class before, so it's Egley. It's not Eagly or Eagly. Egg as in chicken, and Lee as in Lee. So, Mr. Egley, this is Calculus 2. You'll see right at the very top, and some of you, again, you've had me in class before, so you've heard me talk about this. But it's a phrase that in Latin, it's rendered as finis origine pendet. And roughly translated into English, that means the end depends upon the beginning. The end depends upon the beginning. And I first started talking about this, or started using this phrase several years ago in my Calculus 1 class. And because, as you well know, when you start Calculus 1, some of you are in for, when you start Calculus 1, you're in for 3 semesters of calculus, maybe some differential equations, maybe some advanced calculus. You may be in for 5, 6 semesters of work in the calculus. And the end depends upon the beginning. If your foundation in Calculus 1 is lacking, that's going to inhibit the likelihood of your being successful for several semesters. But it also applies, I think, in any individual class, and in particular in this different format that I'm not used to, this online format. The fact that it's different, it's not what you might be comfortable with. It's certainly not what I'm most comfortable with, but the end depends upon the beginning. If you start well, there's a much greater chance that you will end well. If you start poorly, then there's a really good chance that the outcome might not be what you hoped it was. And so it's very important that you start strong, and that will give you a much more high probability of being able to finish the way you want the semester to finish. My email address is eggs@lonestar.edu. Now, this course I have also set up the Yahoo account, and if you have checked on D2L, that forwarded you to my individual web page, and in there it gives you the instruction for accessing my Yahoo account. Everything I'm going to do, there are several reasons for this, none of them really need to be on your plate, but I'm going to be running the course. Essentially, it's entirely through the Yahoo page. For the videos, if you have access to Yahoo, the videos will be there. YouTube. If you have access to YouTube, the videos will be on YouTube. And everything that I will do, all the communication, all the information I'll be giving, all the responses you will be dealing with will be on my home page, my school home webpage. And through, if you want to communicate with me, do that through the Yahoo account that I've set up for this class. If you do that, there'll be a much higher likelihood that things are going to be going more smoothly. So, but anyway, the eggs at Lone Star, I've been eggs ever since junior high. So eggs at lonestar.edu. That's, if you need to get a hold of me, that's another alternative. But ideally, all the communication you'll have will be through the class's Yahoo account. The textbook, it says here, it's my favorite typo of all time. I made this typo about 5 or 6 years ago, and I liked it so much I kept it. The text is Clacculus. Clacculus Maximus, the great Roman mathematician. I just like that typo, so I kept it. This is the 11th edition. All of you should have had access to that textbook either electronically or hard copy for your Calculus 1. If you don't have access to that, you're going to be in a hard way because all the assignments are going to come from there. You do not need MyMathLab or any other electronic password or electronic access or homework system. Everything is going to be coming through that textbook. So if you have access to the 11th edition of Larson, either electronically or hard copy, then you're going to be good to go. So that's what you need to have. The grade scale. This is a major difference to how I would run the course than if I were in a face-to-face setting. Ordinarily, I would have several quizzes set up. Those quizzes would be helping you, and some students in the past would say forcing you to keep up with a lot of the basic forms, a lot of the integral forms that we're going to be dealing with. But because of the dynamic and the way I'm going to set this up, your entire grade for the entire course is going to come from 4 exams and the final exam, 100 points each. So that's 5 exams, 500 points. The way I do grades is different from the way most people do grades. I do not go by percent. I don't care what your percent is. What I go by is total points. What the difference is amounts to something like this. Suppose someone has 79.88%. The question is, does that get rounded? Well, to me, I don't care. If we have 500 points possible, and if your goal is to get an A, you can see here, if your goal is to get an A, then your goal is 450 points. As soon as you get your 450th point, you're in like Flynn. There are a few other little minor things later on. But roughly speaking, as soon as you get your 450th point, you have an A. If you have 449 points, I don't know all the mathematics in the world, but I can do less than. And I know 449 is less than 450. If you want 450 points, then you should have gotten one more question right back on one more test back in the middle of October, and you wouldn't have had to worry about it. So I will post the scores. As soon as we get exams rolling around, I will post your scores on my webpage. You will know how many points you have at any point in the semester. I'll make sure and keep up with it this fall. It kind of fell apart in the spring because of how the spring worked. But I'll keep that. As soon as I get the grades posted, you will know where you stand in terms of your 450 points. Some of you, all you need is credit, no credit. All you need is a C or better. And so strictly speaking, you might only need 350 points. Well, if you have 348 points, you're not there yet. If you have 351 points, you are there. So I go by points, not by percent. There is no rounding. There is no rounding. A point is a point is a point, no matter where it comes from. All right, so the exams. The exams 1 through 4, one exam for each of the chapters, and they will consist of 2 parts. The exams will have a multiple choice section, about 30 or 40 multiple choice questions. There's going to be enough for you to do. You're not going to have to worry about trying to find something to occupy your time when exam day rolls around. So it'll be 30 or 40 multiple choice questions, and then there will be a set of about 5 or 10, depends on the problem set, depends on where we are, probably closer to 5 than 10, but there will be a set of problems where you'll be expected to work everything out from scratch. Those problems will be very, 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 very similar to homework. If you've kept up with the homework problems, then you'll be able to do anything there. The homework problems will be able to allow you to also, if you've watched the videos and worked the homework, then you should be able to answer any of the questions that come in the multiple choice. Multiple choice, it might also be short answer, where you might have to work a problem and just write your final result of 16 or whatever. So that's the way the exams will work. And the rest of this you can read through straightforwardly. And then the final exam is sort of a greatest hits album. I will go through the previous exams and take problems off of there, a multiple choice section, and there will also be a work the problem section. And roughly speaking, I'll take those problems and rework them a little bit, do like a studio remix on my greatest hits album. And I might change a cosine to a sine, or I might change a minus to a plus, but they'll be very similar kinds of problems and very similar type of questions. All right. The next piece is, I don't want to go through this as extensively as I would in a regular class setting, but grade adjustment because of your personal situation. I am not unsympathetic to your personal situation. You have all my sympathy, and that's wonderful, but it doesn't earn you any points. What I go by is points earned on the exam. And so each of these, if you read through these, each of these is an email that I have copied word for word. I took out anything that would identify the person. Each of these is the word for word copy paste, essentially, of an email that I got. Each of these arrived after final grades were posted. So each of these in the past few years. And just to give you sort of a flavor of this, this person writes, "It is not as simple as me retaking this class. I am in high school, and my continued enrollment in the dual credit program does not allow for me to get a D in any class. I have been able to complete a certain number of hours so far, and I am well on my way to obtaining my AS degree by the time I graduate from high school. While I know this is not your problem," person got that part right, "while I know this is not your problem, I am asking for some consideration. This earned the author 0 points. 0. Let's see, another one here. "Professor Egley, please reconsider my grade. As I tried to explain, I've been battling personal issues this semester. My family member that was staying with me is addicted to drugs and vandalized my vehicle. On top of that, my other family member suffered from 3 mini strokes, leaving her unable to speak. Also, I must work 35 hours per week to pay my way through school and bills with no help. Please give me a C in your course to pass. I'm a good student and person, but have been battling many demons not of my own making. We can discuss in person if preferred. Please take all factors into consideration. Thank you." And this earned its author 0 points. The last one is nice. This is the entire email from start to finish. This is it. "I was hoping for an A." So I wish they'd told me that at the start of the semester. Maybe that would have helped. I don't know. But that also earned the author 0 points. So it's not, again, not that I'm unsympathetic, but I owe it to the integrity of the course. And so your personal situation, the grade adjustment because of that is 0 points. It's interesting. I've gone through this the last several semesters, and for example, last spring I got an email from a person that said, "Please don't include this on your list of people wanting to change grades," and then wrote essentially something very similar. So there it is. Now most of the rest of this you can read through and figure that. A computer should make sense to you. A couple things I do want to point out. Egregious errors on exams. If you make a mistake that is so egregious, if that problem is worth 5 points and you make one of these mistakes, it is so bad, it is so terrible, If it's worth 5 points, you might get -7. Stuff not limited to, but stuff like this. X plus 3 quantity squared, and you write x squared plus 9. You can almost see my blood pressure rising just the fact I had to write this. If you do this, I don't care what else you do. I don't care how perfect the rest of your work is. I don't care if you find a cure for cancer. If you do this, if this problem is worth 7 points, you're getting -9. I'm going to kill this as much as I'm... stuff like this. If you do x squared plus 4 over x squared minus 7, and you cancel those, you are losing more points than this problem is worth. There are certain things that you just need to not do. This is, and I'm not talking about mistakes from Calc 1. That's different. This is basic algebra that this is no good. You need to make sure that doesn't happen. All right, the rest of this you can read through pretty much by yourself. I don't know how much of this is going to be particularly, some of this isn't particularly germane in an online course, but you can read through that. The final exam is Thursday, August 13th. Now, things I hate. I hate these questions. I hate them. I hate them. I hate these questions. Every instructor you've ever had hates these questions. Number 1, will this be on the test? I hate that question. Every instructor you've ever had hates that question because there's more to it. When you say, or when a student says, will this be on the test? You're actually saying more than that. What you're saying is, because if it isn't, how would you finish that? Because if it isn't, I'm not going to waste my time working with it. Will this be on the test? Every instructor you've ever had hates that question. When is the final? I just told you when the final exam is. You think, well, what's the big deal? You have to ask it once. I have to answer it 28 times. So I hate that. I hate not following blatant directions. The directions are there. Read the directions. Follow the directions. When you fill out your tax form, if you put the right number on the wrong line, what happens? They send it back to you, get to pay a penalty, and you do it again. If you do it wrong, you need to do, that's not good enough. So the directions say, if the directions say use all capital letters, then stinking use all capital letters. And so on. How many questions will there be on the test? I just told you, read the syllabus. Is there any extra credit? What you're really asking is this. What you're saying is, I didn't learn the stuff you wanted me to learn. Please give me something else to learn. And really, you're not even asking that. What you're saying is, I didn't learn what you wanted me to learn. Please give me something else to do. There is no extra credit. Just get enough ordinary credit, and the extra credit doesn't come into play. If you want to get a C, then you get your, whatever it was, 350 points, and you're in. So, is there any extra credit? There, period, is, period, none, period. And then I occasionally get students doing this, complaining about having to learn the material. If you don't want to learn the material, that's fine with me. My dad lived a wonderful, full life. His third son has some issues, but my dad lived a wonderful and full life, and he never knew the calculus. You can do a wonderful thing with your life and have a grand time and not learn the calculus. If you don't want to learn the material, that's fine by me. I'm not trying to be snarky or passive aggressive. Just drop the course and do something else with your life. But when you signed up and paid the money, you're in. So you're either in or you're out. So if you're in, then don't complain about having to learn the material. The rest of this is stuff the school said I had to include, so that's why I included it. This has been a little bit long, but I hope it gives you a little bit of a feel for what you'll be wanting to look through. Just a small little last bit. the next, somewhere down on the webpage, it says basic forms. You will want to get a copy, a hard copy of the basic forms. And you want to learn those, make sure you have those. I'll talk about that more when we start to actually get to the content part of the course. So anyway, that's the brief introduction. If you have any questions you want to ask me, send them to me via the Yahoo email account, and I'll see if I can get back to you as quickly as I can. So that's it for now. That's a brief run through of how the course is going to work.